Good evening. The Design Review Board public meeting of November 12th, 2015 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at their discretion. Roll call.
That was mine.
Mr. Benlian, absent. Mr. Charchian, absent. Mr. Malikian.
Here.
Mr. Mardian.
Here.
And Mr. Simonian.
Present.
Thank you. Report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on November 4th, 2015. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item not a part of this agenda? Do you have any cards?
None.
Okay. Then we will move down to the review calendar. We have no items on consent and no items in old business, so we'll start with new business. The first item is at 1410 Colina Drive. It's PDR 1420231. And Rather Duong is the planner.
This case is being, we're asking the board to continue the case at the applicant's request. This is because at the last hearing for this project, it was voted by the board to continue it so that the applicant could produce a massing model to consider whether a one-story option on the site was possible. In developing that massing model, the architect found that indeed a one-story building is feasible on the site, and has decided to move forward in that direction, which was the direction the board was requesting more or less at the hearing. And in order to develop the drawings for the full set that you need to review for the project, they've asked that the case be continued.
Any objections to continue the case? No.
Although you may have some speaker cards.
Yes, I do.
Honestly, I was not here at the hearing, the first hearing, so I'm open to any thoughts.
And if I could just throw in the case will be continued to January 12th.
So it will be a full submittal, in other words?
January 14th, I'm sorry.
So it will be a full submittal of design?
Full submittal on January 14th, and we'll also renotice the proposal because of the concern in the community. We want to make sure everyone knows they'll receive notice for the hearing.
Go ahead, Mr. Simonian.
Do we have speaker cards for?
Yes, we do. I'm going to open the public hearing, but I just...
Is there a reason to even open the public hearing?
Yes, there's some members of the community don't believe that the continuance should be granted, so the board should hear their thoughts before voting to decide that.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing, but due to the number of speakers and the cases coming back, I'm going to allow 2 minutes for each speaker. I have the first one is Elizabeth Shahjajan?
Close enough.
Close enough? All right, good.
Good evening. This is Elizabeth Shahjahanian. I'm the neighbor to the north of the 1410 Colina Drive. I watched the video several times before tonight's meeting, and it was very clear what the respective board members stated. The owner was supposed to come up with a one-story plan, not a complete plan, but a sketch for the design review board to review and for us to see 10 days prior to the hearing, at least 10 days prior to the hearing. We've been going to the city, we've been asking to see the plan, only to find out that none has been submitted, and only recently we found out that there isn't going to be any plan because the owner needs more time. The instructions were very clear. Once again, they haven't followed the instructions, and all they had to do is come up with a sketch, as we discussed last time. And we've been also hearing different stories from different, and when I say we, I refer to myself and my respective neighbors. We've been hearing different stories from different staff members, telling us, one staff member said that, well, it was said that they should come with a one-story plan, but that doesn't mean they can't build a two-story. Well, that's not what the decision says here. Another staff member said that they have come up with a one-story plan with a setback. We don't know what that means. We don't know what height of a setback we're talking about. Another staff member said that they have come up with just a one-story plan. Bottom line, we don't know what they have come up with. They have not followed your instructions. They've had ample opportunity, not since this last hearing, but since 2 years ago, to come up with a one-story plan, and they haven't. And we are opposing to a continuance. We need a final decision for a one-story plan, and they will have ample opportunity to submit the plan pending the next hearing, whenever that may be, whenever they submit it. We were supposed to see a plan, and we don't have anything to see.
Well, I just want to remind the audience that we haven't seen plans either. So, and the reason for the continuance, and I'll deliberate that, because if we had seen that site plan, we would have just commented on the site plan, and we either had to return it for redesign, because at that point we have no full plans. It was just a massing model that we're asking, or site planning. With that, it would have been either denied or redesigned, sent for redesign. So either way, it was going to go back.
That's exactly my point.
So the reason we're doing that is in order for it not to go back again, okay? And we'll save, to my understanding, this is better for you for the time constraints that you're concerned about. And I feel that the applicant has also the right. Now, whether we have redesigned it or not, it would have been maybe 4 months from now, he'll be back and will still be an active application. So in this case, I think it's wise to continue it so you can see full plans, because we haven't seen it either.
Well, that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. But
and Pia, it's our decision to make that call, and we haven't done that yet. There's
correct.
2 commissioners here, and we'll deliberate that. But for sake of time, it's just we have to give the opportunity to the applicant. We have given you your opportunity. We've heard your voice, and I'm sure I'm going to hear the same comments again, and I will listen to them. But we cannot, just flat out say, go back. And we'll deliberate that.
Exactly. And just one last thing I want to add. They will still, even if this.
Well, if it comes back.
Let me just.
If it comes back for us and it's one story, we don't like it, we send it back. But if he comes back with a one story and the board decides to approve it, he has the right to a one-story home.
Yes, we understand that. This was mentioned last time. Mr. Simonian asked me and asked the majority of the neighbors if they come up with a one-story plan, one-story, linear, with the correct mass and everything, do we have any objection? We said, of course not. Okay. This was very clear. This was clearly communicated among all of us. But the point that I'm trying to make again is that had we had something to see tonight, we could have deliberated on it and say, okay, this is fine, this is a one-story, or this doesn't look like a one-story because it has a setback. I don't know. I don't know what they've come up with.
We don't
just,
know. We don't know either, so just be patient.
Just one last thing. If this doesn't get continued, there isn't going to be any prejudice because they can submit their plan anyways.
We're going to give him a strict date, if my colleagues agreed. We're going to give him a date certain that he comes back with us. So everybody's clear about that. And with that, I need to go to the other speakers.
And I also want to make sure clear that they're coming up with a one-story plan.
Well, that's what our understanding is. What you heard is, I don't know anything about.
Because
So
we've been hearing
I've heard
different stories.
today I've heard it's one story and they're designing one-story house. So we'll assume that's the approach that they're keeping.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'll go to Edward Shamadas.
Hello, my name is Ed Shamdas. I'm the owner of 1408 Colina Drive. I just want to make one point right from the bat. We are not opposing them to build a house there, okay? That was never our intent. Our intent is for them to follow the guideline by the Design Review Board, by the City Council member, to give them guidance what they should build. And after 4.5 years, they still come back with the same design. Okay, so that's why we're so frustrated, because a continuation, they'll come back with a 2-story high. As a matter of fact, one of the senior staff members told me, when I asked him about this condition, applicants should study option for placing 1-story resident on the lot. And this is what he told me. He said, well, it didn't say they could not build a 2-story. So I really need clarification.
Well, I just clarified it. I'm going to say it again. To our understanding today,
Okay.
he's proposing 1-story, and that's all what we know. So
Okay.
I'm going to cut it off.
May I?
Go, sure.
So these are all hearsay. We don't have a project in front of us. We don't have anything that has been submitted. So without having anything, without knowing they're coming back with 1 or 2, it's just rumors, and we're hearing that they're doing 1-story and they're designing and it's actually working or whatever. So I think it's fair both to the applicant and to you guys and to the public that we should see what we're getting ourselves. I mean, what we're going to be approving or not approving or denying or returning, correct? So that's why we want to continue this. I think we should continue. I'm not speaking for everyone else. I just have to see it. I wasn't present on the last one. I heard and I listened and I watched the video. I heard all the public speaking against the project, and we had the applicant speaking about the project. I had no opinion at that time because I wasn't present. But I'm happy. I'm glad that the direction that the board took, and I'm excited to see what's going to come up. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Basically,
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we're not looking at the same thing 2 months from now.
Believe me, we hope ourselves we don't.
We don't know. So if we see it,
First
we'll know.
released 4.5
It's yours.
years, so everybody have to work and all these other stuff. So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I have a comment and a question.
Sure.
My comment is that we're obviously trying to keep it within 2 minutes.
Okay.
And so it might make sense for everybody to come out, to say what they have to say, and then we kind of
Right.
say our comments.
Yeah,
Then the
All right.
question
I take it
have
back.
to you, Mr. Chair, is Mr. Hagopian actually placed a card in where we could ask some questions about some of these questions?
Did you? Would you like to come up, please? And you can fill out the card.
If there's anything.
Yeah, come up.
There might be some questions, so we could go through it, and then we ask the architect, so the public could hear from the architect the direction,
Yeah,
and then we could deliberate.
thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Hagopian, I'm going to give you the opportunity to come up and tell us the recent developments.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience as well from staff and Design Review Board members. And obviously, there's concerns from our neighbors. As eloquently as Mr. Malikian stated, that there's a lot of rumors. So instead of spreading more rumors and talking about the project, I would ask to be continued, give us a moment to prepare proper documents, whatever the direction it might be. I think it's premature for me to say anything at this point. I think it's probably unethical for me to say anything at this point. But given the direction given by you, by the concerns that have been brought up, we are moving probably in the right direction. Again, I'd like to remind everyone that the Hillside Ordinance guidelines, plus the request made by Design Review Board members and staff and et cetera, we have to bring this project to a certain fruition, to a certain look that fits all the guidelines, the concerns that you have, concerns the City Council has had, concerns that the neighbors have had, making sure that the architecture, the site, everything is respectfully designed. So again, it's not a singular chain. This is a continuous chain that has to be connected properly.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Hagopian. Based on staff's understanding, you're pursuing a one-story design. Is that not? Is that what I'm saying? It's not, or
that is that we are pursuing that. Okay. What comes out of that, as much as possible, based on again guidelines of the Hillside Ordinance, directions, etc., from you, from staff, etc. You know, again, that's the intent, is to go for a single story. Okay. However, that comes up to be now.
Well, we'll
that's
see.
That's why I don't want to get into the details of it.
I just want to know if the direction that you're going is what we understand.
That's still the directive, and we're trying to follow.
Thank you. Do you have any questions to Mr. Hagopian?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I had an order here. Saro Shahajajian? Okay.
Speak on behalf of
All right.
Shahjahanian. Very quickly, I just want to...
Your name for the record.
Elizabeth Shahjahanian. Apologize. To the comment that Mr. Malikian just made because he wasn't here last time, these are not rumors. I watched the video again just to refresh my memory. The board members, they were very clear about this, for the architect to come up with a one-story plan. They're not rumors. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Myrna Stanley?
Good evening, board members. Here we are again, and this is going to be brief, and hopefully we are heading towards a single story. I just want to get clarification from this board, and hopefully you can resolve it, and if not, maybe we need to go back to the council on the issue of story poles, because this I understand why they had to be, that these poles, first of all, have been up since March, around March. The project has changed drastically. We're not now talking about a single story. So I'm asking you if you could please require the applicant to remove these poles that have been up for months and months, and then put them up again if in fact he is going to, whatever he's going to do. But those story poles need to come down. And if staff thinks that the project is still ongoing and we can't, we shouldn't require the removal, then maybe we need to go back to the City Council and revisit the whole issue of story poles, because I think all of you were involved with the city when our homeowners association enthusiastically supported story poles, and we're very happy to have them, but they can't be up forever. And this is a totally different project now that they're talking about. So I would appreciate you considering that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask staff a question. Are we going to require, if he comes with one-story condition, story poles?
It turns out we don't have any legal authority to require that they be taken down at this point because it's an ongoing project. There's also the possibility that some of the story poles will be in a location where they'll be reused. They'll definitely be reconfigured and redone to reflect whatever the new design is going to look like.
Require it for one story?
Oh, yes. For this, in this case, definitely.
Okay. I just want the applicant to know that. So, okay. Mm-hmm. I'll go to Corinne Nutting.
Hi, my name is Corinne Nutting. I live on 1428 Colina Drive. I was here at the last meeting. I'll make this really brief. I knew the meeting was continued. I really don't have a whole lot more to add than my neighbors, but I just wanted you to. I didn't want my absence at this hearing to be construed that I no longer am in favor of this, because we don't have any more information than you do, so I still stand in opposition based on what we currently have, which we know is going to change. So I just didn't want my absence.
Sure. You'll be notified again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Michelle Taparian?
It's Michael, and at this point, I'm fine. You guys are going to continue.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for being brief. I have a card, but no name.
That's everyone.
What's the address? Oh.
No, that's the project. Could be.
Mr. No Name.
Mr. No Name.
Would you write it
My name's Jack Foote. My domestic partner owns the house at
Can you say
1408
your name
Curly
again, please?
Drive. Jack Foote, Foote.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think just the main thing is that, I think on our side with the frustration, we're not opposed to the lot being used for residents. We just hope that we'll get to the point where the rules will be respected, and we just feel like in this whole process of going back and forth, we've seen the same design essentially repeatedly. And as long as the message is clear and the expectation will be that there's an actual substantive change in the design that actually addresses the concerns we have, particularly the placement of the driveway and everything, being oriented towards our backyards and, the mass and scale being reduced. I believe that we'll be able to find something that's workable, and we hope that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, unless if I missed anyone. Nope. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll start with you, Mr. Simonian, since you were here last time.
Yep. When we asked for the continuation, we were pretty straightforward with the applicant in that we were looking for a one-story. We were looking for a massing model at that point in time. Present to us today as far as whether it's possible or not, because the applicant was adamant about it being not possible, whereas then there was some doubt that it certainly was possible. Seems as though they're heading in the right direction of wanting to do a one-story, which is really the win-win scenario for everybody. And so the idea of granting the continuation today, from my point of view, and from this board's point of view, I believe, is that we're granting it with the thought of and the expectation that we're going to get a one-story design. Some of what the architect mentioned seemed a little loose when questioned about those things, but I'm assuming that he's just for ethical reasons or whatnot, as he mentioned, he's drawing that gray line, I guess. But our expectation is that that's what we're going to get. So it makes sense for us to take some time, to give the architect some time to look through these complex issues and try to come up with a plan that works. So those are my thoughts on it. I support the continuation with, I guess, the goodwill and gestures that have been presented to us that that's the direction we're going in.
Okay. Are you thinking of a date specific or open?
Staff had mentioned a January 14 date in the paperwork, so if that is the date that the architect could get drawings submitted by, then that should work for me as far as that date's concerned.
Well, after Mr. Malikan.
So, I do also support the continuation, and the reason that I support the continuation is I believe the reason that we're sitting here, we're design review board commissioners, and we're here to review the design, which whatever comes in front of us. And if there is no design to review, what are we supposed to review, or what are we supposed to deny? So the point of the continuation is to finally see the result of all the input that you guys have given the applicant. It would have been nice to see, having said that, it would have been nice to see the design at this level, in the very conceptual level, so we can see and give direction of what direction it's going. But that's the risk that the applicant is taking and trying to develop this to the level that they think that it's going to be presentable and also appealing to everyone. And I think it would have been a good opportunity for us to be able to give the input and say, yes, it is a right direction, we support it. We could have even said, now that we've seen this, we continue to another date so we can see the complete design, because we're missing certain documents details that we can't understand what is happening. So, but they've chosen to take it to the next level, bring it back to us in January 14, and at that time, we can see if it's a one-story, two-story, and, having that kind of a vague direction of, telling us that it may or may not be a one-story or not. I mean, I've seen one-stories that are larger than a two-story. So I don't know, to be honest with you. Without looking at the design, without understanding how they're addressing all the hillside guideline conditions, all the rest of the conditions that the council have put forth, I can't really say anything, so I have to continue to see the design. So I agree with you.
Thank you, and I'm going to follow up, and I agree that we should continue it, but even if we had seen those sketches at the conceptual level, I don't think we had the right to continue it at that time to another hearing, correct?
You mean had they brought?
So had they brought it today?
We could do. I mean, we could have
Yeah, but it
suggested
had to go for redesign. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stan.
I think you could continue it again, but it's kind of a moot point now.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so, all right, then I'll take a motion on continuance.
I'll move, continue the project to a date
Before you
certain.
make the motion, I want the applicant to tell me about the date.
I will check. May I?
Go ahead, come up.
I will check the date, but I think
This is the date the applicant requested, and it's the second hearing from tonight's hearing. We only have one hearing in December, so it's really, and which already has a full agenda.
Which date is the second hearing?
We have December 10th as a hearing, and then this is the first hearing in January,
Which is,
January 14th.
just so the public could hear. They're all here.
Okay.
So that's satisfactory?
that's satisfactory. If I may ask the question that you all the board members brought up as far as a sort of a middle ground studio session presentation, is that something that is possible? Is that something that is advisable? Is that something that, or is it off the table?
At what point do you want that?
The reason why I'm asking, because it's very complex what we're going through right now, and we can present certain things, but it's still premature to go through that process. That's why I'm asking if it's something that can be done or cannot be done, so at least we're clear that we're moving to January 14 date.
I think that
Right
was.
here, it cannot be done.
Okay.
You should. The applicant should have the drawings in as complete a state as possible, and if the board at that point votes for another return for redesign, that's the risk
good.
you're taking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okay, continue.
But that doesn't mean that they can approach the public and have their
Well, they
own
can certainly
private
approach the
presentation.
neighbors.
And do a private presentation with the neighbors and
I'm hoping that the neighbors are willing.
involved in that.
What we don't want to have is free design review sessions with the board. We want everyone to.
Okay. You were saying, Mr. Simonian, you're making a motion?
I made a motion,
Okay.
and I assume we're continuing the case to a date certain of January 14, 2016. At that point in time, we're assessing the project as a submittal for final review. I assume that's what's happening.
Yes.
But here's my question. I mean,
Because you see where I'm going with this.
yeah, I know where you're going with this because originally the application was submitted as a completely different design, and based on the direction, we've requested to see an option of a one-story, and now you have an application that has been filed as a two-story, and it's continuing as a one-story, and it's coming back as a one-story completed.
It's still the same application, though.
I mean, that's a design process that we have to go through. Given the sensitivity of the case and all these
But
concerns.
all I'm saying is, wouldn't it be correct to have a new application filed, and so so it's actually coming back as a one-story. It's posted and publicized as one story rather than the revised two-story as a. I don't know which is correct.
Generally speaking, it's at the board's pleasure. It's whatever you decide. Whether you want to grant another continuance or whether you think that it should be returned for redesign because it is substantially different and needs more work, that'll be your decision at that time. What you should not do tonight, though, is try to preordain what happens at your next hearing.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I would discourage you from saying we're going to continue it, but we're going to limit our possible actions at the next meeting. That's probably not proper.
Well, we're going to review it as if it's a new design, we're going to review it as a new design.
It's a revision, a significant, as we see it, we haven't seen full drawings yet, but it's a significant revision of the proposal based on the direction that the board gave to the applicant at the last hearing. So in that way, it's a little more, it's more of a change than we normally see, but it's still within the same application.
It's been different than what I've been used to see past 10 or 12 years that I've been sitting here. We've always had the continuation of a specific information that we needed on a specific project. If it was going to come back to us with a complete redesign, in our case, it's a follow-up of our direction that we've given. It's just it hasn't been a continuation process. It was more of a return for redesign process. But in this case, it's just different. Then we just want to see what it's going to come back to, and then we'll decide then, I guess.
You have to look at it also, Ms. Mulliken. We're trying to, be the common ground both for the applicant and for the neighbors. And that's our purpose here, is to serve the community and people who want to live in this community. So we have to really create a common ground by giving opportunities to both sides. And, in this case, this matter, as all of you know, it's been a complicated matter. It has gone through several reviews, and, allowing such continuance maybe will bring closure to this case,
I agree. I mean, all I'm saying is that it would, as a continuation of a project, the continuation usually was for, a section is missing or a detail is missing or now it's coming back a completely redesign, which I understand. I appreciate the direction we're taking. I'm happy that we're all in agreement that we are going to accept this to happen, so we'll have a closure to this case, so which I'm glad, and I just don't want it to be an issue later on in a month or so. Everybody decides that no, we can't. We have to we have to come back as a brand new application and so on.
Well, it's case by case basis, and in this case, it's case by case basis. This is a different circumstances, different issues that have occurred over time, and we're trying to, like I said earlier, bring it to closure. Somewhere along the way, we either deny the project and let it go, if that's the worst scenario, let it go back to City Council.
I have a question, and so far as, is our expectation to get a full submitted package on January 14, like what we're seeing behind us is typically?
That's what I'm understanding.
Yes.
That's what my understanding is as well. And is that what staff
That's what we expect to see, yes.
And that's when we really could reassess the whole thing.
And if the board remembers, you were very much inclined to, at the last hearing, return for redesign with a one-story proposal. And it was only the continuance idea only came up when the architect insisted that was impossible. So we thought it would be fair for them to come back to the board tonight, proving that it was impossible through showing you the massing models. When they, in the course of that study, decided, it is possible to do a one-story, it seemed like the best way to proceed was to come back with that one story, which was clearly the board's direction at the last hearing.
Okay. Let's close this item for the continuance, since we have a vote on a second. Roll call, please.
So this is to continue 1410 Colina to a date soon of January 14, 2016, and the project will be renoticed. There was a motion by Mr. Simonian and a second by Mr. Malekian. This will be a roll call. Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Malekian?
Yes.
And Chairman Mardian?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And next item is PDR 157653, 1135 Elm Avenue.
Yes. The project at 1135 Elm Avenue needs to be continued to the next meeting, December 10th, based on the fact that we don't have quorum. The applicant, Alan Millikian, sits on your board, and at this point, there are only two other members on the board tonight, so it will be heard on December 10th.
And I have to recuse myself from voting on continuation. So,
well, I'm not. We don't even continue it, correct?
I was not listening.
The board just doesn't have a quorum tonight.
No, yeah, it just can automatically continue to the next meeting.
Okay. So no vote.
No vote. It just automatically will continue to December 10th.
Okay. Thank you. Next case, please. PDR 1518229 1146 Graynold Avenue. Is the staff person on that?
I believe the staff person will be Rather Duong in what will be his last presentation to the board, as he's accepted a position in another city, Santa Monica.
Wow.
Not
plaque
condemn.
or
Well, we are sad to see you go, rather.
Yeah, we are.
Amazing journey we've had together.
Don't continue this way.
We know one way to keep them back here.
Yeah, this is actually a really bittersweet moment for me. I've been working with the city and for the city and specifically with the planning division for a very long time, longer than I had anticipated. And that is solely, not only do I enjoy the work that we all do here in planning division, but I also truly enjoy working with the public as well as each and every one of the staff members here. It's been a really incredible journey. I've learned so much from each and every one of my colleagues. They know their craft. They are true professionals in their fields, and I am incredibly grateful for what I've learned in terms of how we do things and how we do planning as well as in the areas of design. And with that said, I also value working with the board members throughout the years that I've been here as well. You have, each and every one of you have given us valuable inputs and helped us guide each project through its fruition in the most expeditious and design-sensitive way that's reflective of the community that the project is located in. So, and I think that's a value that we cannot put a price on. So I appreciate the opportunity through the years, and this is a small world, so hopefully we'll see each other again somewhere in some capacity, and I wish everyone well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rather. Go ahead, Mr. Simonian.
This is a bit of a surprise to, I know, us and myself, and I must say, rather, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. I know over the years we've worked on many cases together, and you're very professional, and you're just an amazing support system, and I'm truly, truly saddened to hear that you're leaving. I mean, I'm sure it's a great opportunity for you, and personally, I'm very happy for you and your family, but I gotta say, I'm just so sad to see you go. Just been an amazing addition to the planning department, and sad to see you go. So good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Well, rather, I've known you actually prior to Glendale, so we've known each other since the prior city, and I met you there, and we continued working together. You've been a really helpful planner and helped us with throughout a lot of the projects. I'm truly going to miss you, and good luck, and I'm sure I'm going to work with you in coming city that you're going to. So we have a couple projects there, so we'll definitely see each other. And good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rather. I appreciate what you've done to this community and to the city. And I happen to know Rather when he was first hired at the counter, and I was at this dais then, but I've gone a lot of projects with him. And he's come a long way, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the well wishes, and
we're surely going to miss you. You know, when I heard the news, I actually heard it in Whole Food when I bumped into one of the other colleagues.
You didn't tell us?
Yeah, no. Then I said, "Come on, no."
Yes, I will definitely miss everyone here because this has become my second family. You know, it's a great group of people.
How many years has it been here?
13 years and 8 months, but
8 months, you counted days too,
13 years?
But I'm not counting. Yes, time flies, I guess, when you're having fun, and I truly had fun.
Oh my God.
We work hard, but we also support each other tremendously in the division, and planning is not always easy work, but it's the family that we have here that really make us stick together and support each other through thick and thin.
We've sure had some interesting cases together, right?
Yes, that's for sure.
Several rendezvous to council.
And now a slideshow.
All of Rather's
Swelling
the highlights.
He thought he was going to close this previous case and go home in peace, but let somebody else deal with that one. But thank you, Rather, again. I'm saddened about the
Thank you, but
and
hopefully we'll see each other.
Health and happiness.
Thank you very much.
All right, next case, please.
Well, with that said, this is the last item on on the agenda tonight. It's located at 1146 Glendale Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct a 54 square foot addition on the ground floor and a brand new second story amounting to 453 square feet. At the rear, there will be a new trellis patio as well as 2 new balconies on the second floor. There will also be some interior remodel of the existing house. The subject property is Zone R1, Floor Area Ratio District 1. Just by way of some background of the property, the site was developed in 1938 with a 1,131 square foot one-story single-family residence. And in 1976, a pool was constructed. And as recently as 2005, a bedroom and a bathroom were added to the house, bringing the total square footage to 1,365 square feet. So with the proposed addition tonight, it will bring the total square footage of livable area to 1,872 square feet. Now, this is the maximum permitted by code based on the zone and the floor area ratio district the property is located in. In terms of site planning, because most of the addition is on the second level, it will not substantially change the existing site planning of the house. But the reason why the applicant proposing as a second-story addition is because of the limited area to be added at the back of the house. As you can see on the site, in the site plan, there's a pool as well as a detached garage that take most of the open space in the backyard. So essentially, the existing site planning will remain unchanged. That includes the existing landscaping. So in terms of mass and scale, undoubtedly with a new second story that will add new mass to the building, but staff believe that the second story is sensitive to the overall mass. The applicant has stepped the second story back from the first story. For example, along the front elevation, the second story is about 16 feet 5 inches and will be located behind the existing ridge. And on the side and the rear, it varies between 5 to 10 feet from the edge of the first story. So in terms of the overall massing, staff believes that the applicant was successful in addressing that. In regards to the project design and detailing, the addition will match the existing residence in terms of the materials and finishes. There are a couple changes to the windows that the applicant wishes to make the windows so that they're more consistent with the overall style of the house. For example, the front windows facing the street in the living room is currently a sliding windows. A window that will be changed to a single hung windows with trim and seal. So these are some of the changes that the applicant is proposing to make. But overall, there are 2 window operations. The applicant is proposing casement and single hung. So we wanted to make sure through a condition that the window operation style and appearance look consistent as much consistent as possible. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Staff recommends a couple conditions, and they include all windows openings should be provided with seal and trim. All windows should be installed recessed from the face of the exterior wall. And any existing windows that are proposed to be replaced should be installed as block frame. And window style and operation be consistent throughout the project as much as possible. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duong. I had a couple of questions as well.
Oh, and also before I forget, staff received 2 emails from Jamaica Petzak as well as Ms. Barbara Brunelli expressing opposition and concern over the proposed second-story addition.
Including the one that's in our packet?
Yes.
Okay. Ask a question on scale and proportion. The existing house is designed on the side and rear. The proposed new second story features hip roof. But tell me something. Historically, minimal traditionals are one story. And in this case, you rarely see minimal traditional that has two-story.
Well, you see minimal traditionals that have later second-story additions on them.
Yeah, but it's not really a true minimal traditional because historically, I'm just bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that caught my eye because of the hip condition with the gable condition, but I'll talk about that a little more. My second question, what's the window material? It says aluminum clad. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
All the windows will be aluminum clad.
Aluminum clad wood.
Yes.
Clad wood, okay. And if I understand this floor plan, I know I shouldn't talk about floor, so there will be a total of 5 bedrooms and no changes on the first floor, correct? Is that the intent? Because that's what I see on the plan.
There's a little bit of an addition on the first floor.
Yeah, but no alteration in the first floor at all.
No major changes, just to accommodate the new stairwell.
That's all my questions. Go ahead, Mr. Simoni.
Are they keeping the, it seems as though the windows might have been changed down in the last 5-10 years with some rehab windows. Are those windows staying, or are all the windows being exchanged to the aluminum wood-clad windows?
My understanding is that the windows that are visible from the street or any public right-of-way, the applicant is proposing to change so that it's consistent with the overall style of the house, which is consistent with our window replacement guidelines.
Yeah, the drawings do call out the windows at the front bay are shown as existing to remain. As rather noted before, the window to the right of the doorway will be replaced.
The reason I brought that up because on the schedule it says aluminum clad, if I'm not mistaken. That's why in the elevation it says match the existing.
And the board can clarify that with the architect and make any conditions that you like.
Any questions, Mr. Malikian?
Nope.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing. I'll go to the applicant and the architect, Farshad Azramush? Noosh. Oh, that's an N. Okay. All right.
Bad handwriting.
Okay.
Farshad Azramush, Atelier Architects, 13743 Ventura Boulevard, Suite 270, Sherman Oaks, California. Ryder really explained everything, and I don't see how you can have any comment on his last presentation.
It was perfect.
I think he rehearsed it.
I arranged a job for him in Santa Monica.
All right.
I know you all hate me for that, but putting emphasis on what he said, there is no opportunity to add in the first floor. Really, there is none. With the turning radius going to the back of the garage and the pool and so on. The proposed is to replace the window in the living room on the right side of the facade and keep the bay as is. We will match existing windows. If it says aluminum clad and the existing windows are not aluminum clad, then that's a mistake in our part. Is that what that's, I'm assuming.
The existing windows look to be vinyl.
That's what I was, it's on your schedule, aluminum clad.
So what is the board's direction? Let me ask you that. Well, not all the existing windows, the one in the family, the living room in front.
Hey, do you have any other comments to make holistically about the project? We realize windows is one of them, and we'll discuss that.
Okay.
What else?
I just wanted to, if there is any question, I'm here to answer.
I have no questions.
I have more technical questions for you. And this is just from my understanding. You've done a very nice job of explaining to us what you're keeping, what you're removing as far as percentage of the roof and the walls and everything. Have you looked at the framing and how you're actually going to place the second floor over? Because it's just floating in the middle of the space. and you're carving away the roof based on exact footprint of the addition, and I'm not sure you're actually going to go through the expense of supporting the existing framing and existing roof, and I mean you're about a foot or two away from the ridge, and then you got this balcony that you're taking out. So all of
Your
those.
point is a very valid point. Originally, I had designed a second floor addition that most walls would fall. Thank you so much. Would fall, and I can show that to you. Would fall over the first floor walls, so that issue wouldn't be there. But that wasn't acceptable to the staff because, for example, the side wall would fall on the exterior wall, privacy issues. And so that was the intent. But the structural solution is not easy. I realize that.
No, I'm just wondering because the cutout, the existing roof framing that you have, I don't know how your entire upper roof of the how do you call it, which direction?
Existing roof.
The existing roof facing, I don't have the north-south, or east section of the ridge are going to remain. Like, I'm not sure.
From street side?
This is, this section. You have.
But I think that, are you concerned that in the process we would have to remove those portions and that we would go over 50%?
Right.
It just has to be shored and kept in place. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Are you at that number already? I mean, I didn't get into those numbers.
I don't think he is, but I don't know if you. All I'm saying is that I think it would be wiser for you to make sure that the documents see if you can remove and replace it in kind. I don't know. I mean,
that whole back has to be restructured.
If that right side of the roof can be removed because it's easier to build and we don't exceed the 50%, I'll look at that.
Well, staff isn't worried because almost all of the ground floor walls are staying in place.
Okay.
The front half of the roof clearly can stay where it is. He's at 21.94% right now.
Now that staff is not worried, and can you explain the direction that staff gave him of locating this within, like, away from the ridge? And was it a privacy issue?
Well, it's a fairly when we're looking and reviewing second stories in single story or largely single story neighborhoods, it's standard procedure to try to pull the walls as far away from the existing ground floor walls as possible. And we thought this project was more successful at that than many projects that we've reviewed.
And for that, I have this original design that you guys.
No, that's fine.
That we modify. If the need is.
That's okay, though. They understand.
I just my understanding, because it was just kind of odd to put the roof, I mean the second floor and the floating in the middle of the structure.
I agree with you.
Ultimately, we know that structural issues like that can be solved with the appropriate application of money. So ultimately,
that's what we're trying to do. If we could move a wall or two to save them some money.
This whole roof is going to be restructured, however he looks at it. There's no way keeping that roof.
It may be less expensive to restructure it.
Yeah, I don't think I run into this quite a few times over my lifetime. And
thank you.
I have a
Go ahead.
question. As far as the front facade is concerned, have you looked at or considered providing some sort of a base to the building, whether some sort of a stone veneer or something, to anchor the building a bit?
No.
Because it looks so plain right now, the way it just kind of sits there in its stucco matter. Have you looked into that?
I have not. We have not.
So staff considered that, and when we looked at the building and we compared it to other minimal traditionals up and down the street, this one on the bay window at the front, it has a brick base, which is kind of a standard thing that houses like this have done in the past. And we didn't know that we necessarily wanted to extend that brick base across the rest of the house. So we sort of looked at this as let's let the house remain as much as it's possible like it is, fix the windows hopefully, and then let the addition kind of read as itself.
But that brick in the bay window is painted, and we got the reddish brown chimney. Great.
Same dust.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Any other questions to the applicant? That's it. That's it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We may need you back. I have another speaker, Christine Donatelli? Okay.
Hi, I'm Christina Donatelli. I live at 1201 Alma Street, so I'm a neighbor. I think we can all agree that Glendale is a beautiful community. Part of the reason that it is such is because the houses are of similar age and style, and therefore we have a cohesive community with a similar look, a similar flow. The neighborhoods really do blend together, and it makes it a desirable place to live. And other communities like Pasadena, same thing. You know, the houses sort of, they really do flow and match the neighborhood. So I'm very concerned looking at the proposed design of this because it does not match the houses in the neighborhood in size, in style, in aesthetic. The proposed design is aesthetically unpleasing. It's a mishmash of several architectural styles. It's sort of a cottage. It looks like it's sort of trying to be Spanish, but it really doesn't. It's sort of all over the place. And sort of taking a cottage and making it sort of somewhat Mediterranean is very far away from the minimal traditional look, in my opinion. I'm concerned that this sort of design, adding the second story, as you all know, there are very few houses with second stories. And I appreciate that they did try to blend the roof, but it really just doesn't work. And I'm concerned about making the neighborhood ugly. I'm concerned about property values decreasing. Good design can improve communities. It can make neighborhoods nicer. Bad design can do the opposite. So I guess I would just say, I wouldn't object to a second story if, in fact, it blended more. But really, that free-floating middle part just looks so very odd, and again doesn't match the houses on the street. So I would recommend that that the board consider asking for a redesign to make it blend better with the houses in the neighborhood. And again, it's less the second story, just the fact that it doesn't actually match what is currently in the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Okay. I have no other speakers. Do you have anything to add? Sure, come on up.
I think that adding the second story where it is was a result of privacy issues and so on. The fact that it's put in the middle of the width of the property, almost far back from the front, and it's least level of visibility from the street. And as far as the style is concerned, we had looked at continuing with the gable on the second floor rather than hip, but it seemed to all of us, including the staff, that the gable would make the building look, or the second floor look taller. So, and if the board has any suggestion to condition to put that to make it more compatible, I don't see how, as far as compatibility is concerned. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask staff a question. He touched on it a little bit about the hip roof versus gable roof. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Duong or Jay. Traditional, even in the same street, traditional style homes, either they're gable or they're hipped. There's not so much combination of it. Are we doing this hip because to reduce mass?
Yeah,
I understand that.
There can be combinations, but it's usually not one level is one and the second level is the other.
Right.
It was solely because of the appearance of the mass when we looked at the gabled versions, and I agree that it's not typical, but in terms of what we try to do in terms of compatibility with the neighborhood, we thought it was the best solution.
Okay. My other question to staff, again, this may go back to older architecture. Is balconies inherent part of the minimal traditional?
We don't really consider style at all when we're looking at buildings like this. We look at compatibility of the forms and the finishes and everything. So we would never, at staff level, we would never say minimal traditional doesn't have balconies, because you only have balconies on two-story property, two-story houses, and minimal traditional is usually just on
one
story. But we didn't think that would be a reason not to have a balcony.
Okay.
So.
All right. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll go with Mr. Malikian.
So, I think the beginning slate of the building, the background, I think it is a minimal. What they've done is a very minimal addition to it, and I agree that if we go with the gable roof, it may actually create the building seem taller. I don't know if the hip roof is the right answer for it, but I think it's fine. It's such a small, addition, in my opinion, that I think it's situated properly. It ties in with the back elevation. I would probably take it to a level of possibly looking into some, combination of gable and hip. And some of these extensions could become gable, and then the larger portion can become a hip roof. So that may actually help somehow tie the upper level to the lower level and bring some cohesiveness to the design. Also, I would look into and see if we can add the same detail of the balcony that we have facing the rear yard, to kind of add that same kind of a detail to the side. I think it just gives it a little bit softer condition there than just a plaster wall there. Other than that, I think it's fine. It's sitting back far enough that I don't have a major issue with the project. I think it's just.
What do you suggest for the back balcony? I know you mentioned something.
No, I like
but
the
didn't quite
back
catch it.
balcony. I like this little detail, that the railing that they're putting in. So I was thinking maybe in the top section, or maybe soften that up a little bit.
If you look to see how that on the slope side.
So what they can do is they can actually take that line across and then possibly put some sort of
Break it down.
maybe break it down, or possibly even,
If you look at the perspective drawing on
Consideration.
A205, the top, so the left perspective it's called.
Right.
It just looks like an equipment screen rather than a balcony. That's what it looks like to me.
If you just look at that issue on the
This one?
yeah where it's at the high point of the slope.
Yeah.
If we had a railing there, then we wouldn't have any potential area for cricket to deflect the water.
Well, I think if you could do, maybe
that's
have
So if there were partial
where it meets here, you'll avoid that.
I think you want to bring it out of that
Boxiness. Yeah.
and soften it up a little bit. And I would probably consider
Yeah.
this end and this end. Was it the same? So these could become gable rather than hip roof, and the combination of this one, it's smaller.
So we'd have the gable would be over the front facade.
On the side.
Oh, the side, the two
these
side ones.
sides,
Got it.
Left and the right side.
Can't see.
Can we discuss that a bit?
Yeah. I mean, this.
Before you write it down, Mr. Gray?
Don't write it down. So just.
I write everything and then cross it out.
Saving ink for you.
And what it'll do, I mean, it will look right on this side, but what it'll do is it'll create the mass on this side. So I don't know if.
Yeah, it's a toss-up there.
Mr. Simone, is that all, Mr.
Yeah.
I do agree it's a toss-up. Insofar as the general direction is concerned, it's nice how it's offset from all sides, and it's actually more of a modest second-story addition because of that fact. However, it is missing some elevational articulation, and so it looks very kind of dry in itself. Yeah, it just kind of looks like it's popped in there.
There's disconnect.
Yeah, there's a sense to that.
It works really nice at the rear,
Yeah.
the west elevation, because it kind of ties in. But over
then
here,
you
it's
lose
just, you know, it's...
Right.
So.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
And so, because if it's more of a modest addition, it seems as though when we're looking at this front facade, this vertical portion of the stucco compared with the smaller portion on the second floor gives it that disproportionate look. And so that's where the base, I think, would make a difference. Now, you know, if we start to sandblast this existing brick, get it to a more of a, you know, its original brick color, which will match the chimney. At the same time, whether we decide to do more of a horizontal wood siding kind of effect on the first 2 or 3 feet underneath the wood sill of the windows that we're about to talk about, that might give it a nice base, which would turn around on this end and terminate at the chimney and perhaps turn around for a little bit on that other side. And so then if we just kind of create this band across, then I think it'll kind of reduce that mass that we were referring to, and it'll make it a little more of a cohesive second story. Plus those columns around the porch seem a little thin, and that's why that's adding to the odd nature of the facade as well. I wholeheartedly agree with the comments made about the balconies. Insofar as the windows are concerned, I do think it's a good idea for all windows that are visible from the street to match the new windows, including the bay. That's a important part of the facade. And with that, I'd love to kind of hear Mr. Chairman's thoughts as well.
Thank you, Mr. Simonian. Yeah, I do agree it's a modest addition. My concerns of the style, you know, we're creating a little different style on top versus what's in the front. And I know in this case he's got a little breaks in it, but I think there's a possibility, like even Mr. Malikian touched on it, adding the gable there maybe will bring it more cohesive design.
On one side.
On either, you know,
or maybe both.
Both, yeah. You know, he could easily, I know I'm going against staff in this, maybe do it this way. It'll just give you, it just feels odd. That whole chunk is there. And maybe because of the mass that you talked about, we have a lot of mass in the base, then we have a small mass there. And I look at these things in a little differently because I look at, you know, some of the historical elements on these minimal tradition. I happened to drive by actually several times in this just to see whether these combinations of hip gable work. And I think having a total hip roof on the second floor, it's not working. You need to add some gable. And my other concern is the balcony in the rear. I know this element is nice, but this is too close. If you look at it, it's so close in here. Maybe that balcony should be pushed back a little bit, a foot or so, to give it a little beef there.
And then once you do that, how much balcony is there left?
He's got what?
Right now, it's a 4-foot deep balcony, which is kind of as minimal as it gets.
Yeah, he's got 4.6.
It's also not visible from the street
4
in
feet,
any real
I mean, I
way.
can live with that. It's just a little detail that, you know. But I think hip, you know, it shouldn't be all hip.
Do you want to?
You should introduce the gable in there. And the window material should match. And clarification on the surrounds, are they wood trim?
Yes, all the surround will be wood trim.
So we're matching that. That's all I have. I'm in support of the project as long as this second floor somehow becomes more compatible with the existing house.
Can I direct the board's attention to one thing regarding the application of wood siding at the base? If you look at the photos, there's an existing brick wall that appears to be similar brick to the brick at the base of the bay.
Right.
That's at the right side of the house, and that's proposed to stay. So it could be a funny kind of juxtaposition of the wood and the brick there.
I don't know. I mean, wood siding, maybe not the, I mean, maybe he should continue it with brick, but again, this brick is painted, so.
Maybe we can remove the paint and bring the brick out.
Back to original maybe will help.
There's also you sometimes see kind of a molding profile that would be attached to the face to create the datum line at that sill that could run across the face and die at the wall and then at the chimney to just break it up a little bit.
On top of the stucco with nothing underneath it, or with some
Yeah, I assume we'd cut out some of the stucco or find something that could be applied to the stucco, even if it were, I'm not sure what material, like a piece
Why
of trim,
can't we
basically.
continue the brick?
What's that?
Why can't we continue the brick?
It's just sometimes so hard to match, but if they could,
So no,
that would be
the
fine.
brick by the time
It could be a little. It could be a little awkward behind the at the entry porch. It would. I'm not sure. I guess there's a return on one side.
What if?
No, there isn't.
Here's another thought. What if it seems like there's a brick edging around the planter. There's a little edging there. What if we raise that brick edging around the planter, become a little bit more
Kind of a
distinct planter area in the front, so it becomes a little bit more a brick rather than just a single course sitting on the grass.
I mean, it's a good idea, but then the thought comes up, if we do sandblast the existing brick underneath the bay window,
I would
faced with that same issue, are they going to be different?
I think I'm afraid once they sandblast it, it's going to be so brittle. It's gonna.
We never recommend sandblasting brick, but we
Yeah.
use other methods.
I mean, one idea would be is if we use other methods as staff recommended to strip the paint, and then we have the natural brick, which I assume would match the fireplace.
Well, the fireplace brick is painted too.
Okay, so.
No.
It is painted. It's painted, yeah.
So we're going to maybe paint it to that color.
Maybe to.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, it's
That answers
painted
that
a different
question.
color, yeah.
There you go. I like that color.
I mean, in reality, if we're unable to match the brick, but we want to keep the brick, then maybe, like, there's a couple of ways to do it. It seems like there's only, like, 3 choices that are on the table. One is, as staff recommended, some sort of a trim that goes along. Usually that trim underneath it is a siding of some sort. So you have the horizontal siding, and then you have the bulkier trim, which kind of fits on the underside of the wood windowsill. And then we'll have the stucco that dies into the brick and then continues again and dies into the fireplace. Or, as Mr. Malakian is saying, clean the fireplace paint and then raise the planter.
Why are we doing all that? I mean, there's so much, it's a little brick here in the bay. Remove it and just put a new brick that matches all the way across. You know, I mean, it's the easiest way possible. No, I'm not looking for you, sir. I'll let you know when I look for you. I mean,
that's fine.
I mean, that's the only, I mean, make it all clean cut. He's doing a substantial addition to the house.
Yeah.
He's going to change the windows. I'm sure he's going to repaint it, you know.
It's a clean approach.
It's the cleanest way to do it. I mean,
So where are we leaving off? Removing the brick and creating a new brick?
New brick line.
base?
Or, I mean, again, when I
They're
look
just
at
options, right?
Yeah, options.
So these are different options.
I'm looking at it. I mean, I'm sure this landscaping will mature up and will cover up that portion too. So I know landscaping shouldn't be used.
So if we're going down the path of new brick as a band on the base of the building, are we re-veneering the existing?
Yeah, re-veneering the
And
existing.
then that leaves the question of the chimney.
Well, the chimneys could be
in the back.
painted close to that new color, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the chimney's chimney's close to the street.
It's close to the street. I think it's overpowering.
Very
color.
visible.
Yeah, it could be, well, 2 choices, to veneer it or paint it to match or strip the existing color off of it. But it seems as though the base might be a good idea.
Yeah, to reduce mass. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
That's it. So can you go through it, Mr. Platt or Mr. Duong?
Okay, staff heard a number of recommendations from the board. One is to make the hip roof design for the new second-story gable to in part to make it more consistent with the existing roof design of the ground floor. We heard that the detailing of the balconies with the wrought iron top should be incorporated for both balconies. We heard a discussion about the base material of the house, and one recommendation was to remove the existing painted brick base under the gable the bay window and apply new brick, or introduce a different material that may work as well. And all windows visible from the street shall match new windows. So that includes the vinyl window for that installed in the bay window facing the street. And we also heard that the planters that span across the front facade could be clad in brick also in lieu of applying brick directly at the base of the house. So we will need further direction from the board as to which option.
But if we're cladding the base of the building with brick or some other material, then it might not be as necessary to raise the planters.
Right.
Yeah, that's our option.
It's either or.
It's which one we want.
So we're giving an option to either create a planter or to clad the base with brick?
Yes.
And then if you could consider the planter on the side with the bay would put some of that brick on the planter below grade and change the proportions of that bay. Alternatively, there could just be a planter on the right side of the door and the entry.
Yeah, that's fine too.
So planter to right or reclad.
The whole purpose is to reduce this mass on less stucco.
Now, if I could recommend something to the board based on some recent hearings that we're going to try to establish as a new policy, after staff reads back the conditions, we recommend that the chair reopen the hearing, invite the applicant to indicate whether they've understood all of the conditions and agree to them, so that we don't run into problems later, which has been happening every so often.
When you say agree, there might be times that they don't agree, but the board has a certain direction.
Of course, but at least they understand the conditions, and will have if they disagree, they'll have an opportunity to express their concerns, which could lead to, yes, the board's decision is final, of course.
Okay.
But isn't that the whole point of the minutes being approved?
We've had problems with people leaving a hearing feeling that they haven't had an opportunity to share some concerns with the board because we've told them you can't speak now. And we think it's the most fair policy to just make sure that everyone's heard the same thing. And of course, the board's decision is final. But in some cases, an applicant may raise a practical issue that hasn't been concerned that could lead to further discussion among the board members to see if that has any validity and could change a condition.
Okay, well, I think that's a good approach. I think just keeps it consistent and less unnecessary discussions. Since that's so, I could do that now?
Sure.
Okay, you're the first one. Mr. The applicant, the architect, I think it was. Can you state your name again? Did you understand the conditions we're putting on your project?
I think I did, but let me read them back to you so that misunderstanding is in there. Farshad Azarnoush, the conditions were to...
May I make one suggestion? Yes, I'm sorry, sir. Since you're the first one of this procedural protocol that we're establishing, is the intent for them to literally pinpoint the questions that they have on what you read?
It would really
Because not to rehash everything, but that could be
time-consuming,
laborious thing, which is not the intent.
As Chris
So
just
what I'm
noted.
understanding is based on the conditions that were discussed and stated and what we have said, do you have any questions or is anything at this point ambiguous to you?
Something you did not understand, or
Well, I understood all of them.
All right.
But I would strongly request that you eliminate the condition of creating a brick base on this building.
And you've been given an
Changing-
option to create a planter in lieu of a brick
Okay,
base.
so the planter, you mean to raise the planter?
To create a low planter with
What is
brick.
a low planter?
It's 18 inches.
Then you are putting dirt against the building.
You can put a waterproofing barrier there.
I think you're changing the building style. If that's what it takes to get this project approved, fine, but I would object to that condition.
Okay. That's
I would agree with the detail on everything that was said is really great. The brick should be sandblasted, and so that bay element stays as a unique feature, but the rest of the building should be left alone. That's my humble opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I had a question. As far as the not for you, sir. Thank you. As far as the conditions are concerned, you guys mentioned the windows, everything being visible from the street is being replaced to match the new.
Right.
Facing the street, not visible.
No, visible from the street.
Visible from.
Indeed,
Yes.
yes. That's common procedure. Thank
We
you.
can't have site
Yeah, no.
communication. Everything's being recorded, so I'm sorry. We can't have back and forth because everything's being recorded. As far as the new protocol is concerned,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think it's important that we do establish some sort of a protocol as to how we're going to continue, because I could see this
Right.
getting
Out of
heated
hand,
at
yes.
times. Yeah.
Can we, after we close this, maybe we'll take a minute?
Sure, it's not agendized, so we can't really discuss it
Can
at
we
this
do that
hearing,
next
but
time?
we can discuss it with the city attorney's office and among staff. It's come up several times, usually on larger projects than this, but it seems if we have a policy, we'd probably have to extend it to all applicants.
I think
I
it
think-
should just be kind of limited to question of a specific condition if they don't understand a clarification or not. If they do understand it and if they have a question, not express their.
Right. Because if it's a clarification, it absolutely makes sense, because we rather us help the public, and if there
Right.
is a question, for us to actually explain what our thought process was, and then that individual applicant or member of the community could say, you, Mr. Malikian, stated X, Y, and Z. Staff put it down as a condition. Did you mean X, Y, or Z
Right.
specifically?
That's very, very true. That's great. I think I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll come up with some language to
Yeah, I think it's better.
recite before we open that up again,
Okay.
establishing what we're looking for.
See, rather, you're leaving off with setting a new precedent. Okay.
Okay, so the conditions are clear for us?
I move to, well,
I'm going to read roll call.
everything, there's no questions really. I guess the applicant has a choice whether to raise the planter by brick or to do the second option, which is cladding the front of the
These
building.
are consideration or conditions?
I believe it's a condition.
Okay.
And insofar as the balcony is concerned, you don't need to put dirt against the building. You could actually make, and this is one of those clarification moments, you could actually have a second row of brick behind at the end of the planter, away from the building,
Right.
and then you could put a sheet metal between your stucco and the planter, and so you're reducing that earth from touching the building.
Right.
With those, I'd like to approve the project with the conditions as stated.
I
That's my
second that.
motion.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Okay, so there was a motion by Mr. Simonian and a second by Mr. Malakian. This will be roll call. Mr. Malakian?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Chairman Mardian?
Yes.
Motion passes to approve the project with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. I have a pair of minutes here.
Actually, there are two sets of minutes. However, neither of them have a quorum.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
So
We'll continue the minutes. Then I'll take a
I move to adjourn.
motion.
Second.
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Pretty good.
single project we're going to.